Okay, we're gonna make a radial design print today. So, this is what it will look like finished. We are starting with a square piece of paper. This paper is 6 inches by 6 inches. We're gonna paint it with watercolors. Bright colors work best on this. As you see, the black ink is what we will be printing with. So that's a nice contrast. The brighter the colors, the nicer your contrast will be. I like to paint a target just to add to that radial balance, that radial look. A radial is something that has balance in a circular way. So that adds to the radial balance of this piece of art. You can be creative with your painting though. There's a lot of different ways to show a radial balance. This one's kind of like a sunburst. This one has lots of circles. This one's just a straightforward target. And that's what I'm painting here. So be creative with that. Once you get that painted, while it's drying, you are going to use a 3x3 foam to scratch your printing plate. So since the foam is easy to press and indent, we use a just a wooden, it's kind of like a pencil without the lead, scratching tool. And when you scratch this, the best way to, again, show that radial balance is to think about it as a quarter of a circle. So you can easily see that. This one is done with 2 plates that are the same. So it's 2 plates total. These 2 are the same. These 2 are the same. The plates are right here, so you can see how they come out once they're inked. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start off mine with a radial pattern. You be creative. You don't have to do what I'm doing here. I'm just starting off with a couple of curved lines to add to that radial feel. I like to use the tips of my pencil to help me with my designs. Don't have to press too hard, but you do want to make sure you're making an indent that you can feel it. If you press too hard, of course you'll tear that foam, and we don't want that. When you start to print these, you don't have to use all the same plate. You can. You can borrow friends and use 2 and 2 like I showed you on my example. You could use 4 different plates if you wanted to, because we will be printing it 4 times. So that 3x3 square will be printed 4 times, whether it's the same plate or different plates. Okay, so I'm almost done with this, and while I'm finishing this, my watercolors are drying. If your watercolors aren't totally dry by the time you're finished, you can always take a paper towel and just blot the excess water off of the top and still use it to print. Okay, so there's my printing plate. My next step is to ink it up and make a print. I'm gonna use this paper to protect my table. I have 2 printing plates here. I'm gonna use 2 today. So like I said, you wouldn't do 2, but you could use yours and a friend's printing plate. You can swap, mix and match. These printing plates are reusable. You can use them as many times as you want. So this is the one I'm gonna print on. The one I painted isn't quite dry yet. It has a little wet in the middle, so you might, if you were gonna use that one, you might have to just take a paper towel and blot the wetness off. Just like that. Okay, so to ink it up, we're using an ink plate and a brayer. So this is my printing ink. I also have some in tubes, but this kind you just get out with a little popsicle stick, put a dab on the plate. This car will do that for you. Roll your brayer until the ink looks pretty smooth, not blobbed up in any one spot. Make sure your brayer is coated in that black paint, or ink rather. And then we are going to ink up our plate. I'm gonna go ahead and just do this one first. So if your plate looks a little gray in places like this one does, you need more ink. It should be black, other than the places where you have scratched. Okay, so I think that one looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna flip it. And be mindful of which way you point it. You might want that to the middle, you might want that to the outside. I think I'm gonna put that to the middle part where I started, to the outside this time. I think I'll do that on both this corner and this corner. Now I am going to use a clean brayer to press it down. This works nicely to apply pressure. It's just like a stamp. So you're just rolling over that to apply even pressure to make your print. Try not to let your plate wiggle, because if it wiggles, your stamp isn't going to come out quite as nicely. All right, let's see what we have. Well, look at that. We probably should have put a little more ink. So let's try it again. We'll print this one. And we are going to add a little more ink to our plate. Okay. Okay, now let's try again. Okay. Now this time, you could, like I said, you could do it all the way around. I think I'm gonna do two different ones though, just to show you. So I am going to use this, the same side I used here for my center point. And using my brayer again to apply that pressure. And also just press with your fingers. Okay. All right, that came out a little bit better. All right, now we're gonna do one more print on this corner and this corner. And I think I'm gonna use the same plate for this corner and this corner. So I'm using this one. So this plate's been used before, that's why it was already black. And I am just rolling my brayer to ink it up. Okay, and now I roll it on top of my printing plate. Okay, let's try it. So I am going to use this side toward the middle. You don't want to go too quickly in this step. This step is important. Okay, looks pretty good. All right, we're gonna fill in this last section. We're gonna use that same plate and we're gonna flip it the same way. So, inking step again. Okay, let's see what we can do. And again, I'm gonna face this point towards the outside, or towards the inside rather, just like I did here, to create that radial look. And use my clean brayer, not my dirty brayer, to apply the pressure. A brayer is just a roller used for usually applying ink and printmaking, but you can also use it to apply pressure. Okay. All right, so we have a total radial balance design. I really like this diamond shape that this one made. The one that I showed you earlier has more of a circle pattern in the middle. Both are showing radial balance though. All right, have fun.